All right, all you wonderful people out there, happy Wednesday. We have an amazing guest on the show today who's been on the show, Rob Douglas, who is literally the fastest guy I know on water. It doesn't matter what he does. He's absolutely inspiring. He's multiple world champion, world record holder. This dude just came back from Aruba and won the Hi-Winds Wingfoil long distance races. So today we're going to go into everything you need to know about wing foiling and maybe pushing the limits there, as well as like the transition from learning windsurfing, learning kiting, learning wing foil. And then we have the one and only Gwen, who's in Europe right now, and he's going to share some information, kind of the difference between Europe and US and trends and things that are going. So first and foremost, I want to say, Rob, thank you so much. It's so good to see you, man. You're such an inspiration. You're just a true legend. So we're really excited to have you on.
Thanks, guys. I love talking about anything water sport orientated, especially wings or kites or anything. So glad to be back talking to you guys, and we're having some fun.
Heck yeah. So one, happy birthday tomorrow to Rob Douglas. He's turning a whole 25. No, he's turning 51, people. And I guarantee you, all those people out there that think you're in your 50s and your life is over, Rob probably could show up and destroy anybody on a wing or a kite or a windsurf even, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, if you give me a couple months to train, we'll be competitive. We'll leave it at that.
Well, how many wins did you have in Aruba, and how many races were there?
So I had been to Aruba before with you, Damo, back in, I think, 2013. And I don't know why I kind of lost sight of that event. But long story short, I heard that they had wing... they canceled the event for a couple of years due to all the COVID stuff. And this year they relaunched the event. I know that it was a successful event. I had a lot of fun back there with you in 2013.
You didn't have that much fun. See, he's gone.
When I saw that they had wings down at the Hi-Winds this May, I decided to put it on the calendar and see if my schedule could make it, you know, with the wife and the kids and some work. And but it was a good thing because I did over Memorial Day weekend. So went down there for 4 days. And the beautiful thing about it is anyone who's been to Aruba knows in May, June, July, you're guaranteed good wind. So that was a big plus for me anytime I pick an event to be able to train and organize for. It's difficult to kind of do that if you can go down there and get 5 knots. But being Aruba, that wasn't the case. So went down there. It was probably, I would say, 15 to 25, maybe some gusts to 30 now and again. So it was really good. It's kind of offshore there, flat water, about 5.5 to 6 mile races. We did 3 of them, one a day, nice relaxed event, a noon start. I trained for it for a little bit, got a bunch of new wings in, the new mantises from Cabrina, which worked really well. Super happy with them. But I raced the 4 every day, that's a great size for me. I love the ability to pump the 4, and it's nice and stiff. So I got a bunch of foils from Mike Zajac out in San Francisco. We went down there, Bill Lynch and myself, and we had a great time. I can't wait to get back there, and we learned a lot. And
you won every day.
I won every day. Yep. You know, it was my first
winning every day.
50 years old. I'm still trying to maintain, you know, physical shape, but I cheated and I used a harness for the first time. I trained with it and I used it for the first time in a race down there. And that was a big lesson. And
good or bad?
I would definitely a benefit. I think anytime you're talking distance or even probably upwind, it's probably something that if people are interested who are listening to put something new into winging that you haven't tried before, I think you'll see a lot of benefits from it, and it's interesting and something you learn.
What was your what were you thinking about harnesses before?
I had played with it last summer a bit, and you know, it was kind of hit or miss, and I sail in a real kind of a gusty place. So it was really challenging, and it's short. It's only like a mile wide. So by the time you start to feel any fatigue, it's time to jibe or tack. So it really didn't work for where I was sailing. But again, going down to Aruba where I knew it was going to be 6 miles plus, and windy. Yeah, we tested, played around with it here, and I made them up. They're adjustable harness lines, so you can kind of play with the length versus having to always fiddle and find it. And I find that even though they're adjustable, that depending on the wing strength, you move them an inch or two either way. So I was happy to have kind of gone in that direction, and I think it works pretty well.
So I would go off of the size of your arms that you train 100% without harnesses in all conditions, and then you put it on for like race day just to make your life a little easier.
And I have twin baby daughters, so 26 pounds on this side, 26 pounds on this side, up and out of the cribs, and that's really where it comes from.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so
for the harness, did you have like a good starting point on the length to like give an idea to people, like, you know, try it first like that and then adjust it from there? Oh,
Well, we're starting to get into some confidential information here, but no, I think if I measured it, I'm about 18 inches, and that's, you know, how you attach it to the handle on the Mantis, and then I had the adjustable on the backhand with just a little bit of a cleat. I wish I had it here to show you guys. And I made them up myself. We can actually take a picture of it and put it up later if you want, Damo, but it's easy. I made it myself. It takes, you know, 10-15 minutes, and like I said,
Okay.
it worked well.
So my biggest question is, you and your brothers grew up incredibly athletic family, big windsurfing family, very competitive in everything you guys have ever done. You started out windsurfing, kind of transitioned to kite surfing, and now into wing foiling. And my question to you is, for all those people that are listening in, obviously you're a very talented kite surfer, world champion, world records. And obviously this is coming down the pipeline for wing foiling. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there for everybody out there. It's coming. But what was your difference between windsurfing learning and wing foil learning? Because there's a lot of people out there that that I would say were maybe a little bit nervous of kite surfing, that you know, were hesitant. And what would you say to them when it came to wing foiling? Because I know you're going to answer this, but there's nothing that is better than kite surfing on a special day. You wing foiling or windsurfing or whatever, to me, you can't take away how good kite surfing is when it's good, period. There's just something about it that just is just spectacular. But I guess my question is, what was that? If somebody's new and they windsurfed maybe, or they were in that genre and they were nervous about kite surfing, but now wing foiling's there, what's that trade-off? Because I wasn't a big windsurfer in the background, but I kind of wanted to just see what that transition would be.
Yeah, so I started windsurfing when I was young, 16, 17, 18 or something like that. And, you know, that was my first wind sport. So, you know, once you've started to learn multiple wind sports, I think a lot of the information and the learning that that happens, you start to put it all together. So additional wind sports, I believe, are easier because you learn from the things you do in the previous sports. So it was difficult. If I had to rate it overall, I think windsurfing still is probably the most challenging to start. I mean, again, when you say windsurfing, there's different aspects of it, right? So I'm talking about being in the harness, being in the foot straps,
up on plane,
with race gear on the plane, doing 30, 35, 40 knots. That's quite of a challenge. And I think physically also, I mean, windsurfing is really physical. You know, the kite surfing, when that came around, to me, the altitude, the ability to jump high, and the ability to do it in 20 knots or less was the big advantage that I saw in the sport, and that's why I pursued it. You know, I live on Martha's Vineyard, and it's, you know, typically it can be windy, but I think an average day for us is, you know, 10 to 20 knots. And that for windsurfing is doable, but it doesn't really click on. For me, windsurfing didn't, you know, start to interest me, or you know, I didn't get addicted to it until it was blowing 20 to 30 more, which is rare. And I wanted to participate be in the water as much as I could, as often as I could. And I saw kiting. That's what it could deliver. So it led to kiting. And then, you know, just a year ago, the wing thing for me took off. And the biggest, you know, besides just another sport to me, it's a way to kind of, you know, learn and to apply the skills that you acquire in the previous wind sports. So it's a kind of a natural progression, but in terms of learning and starting out, I think winging off is very attractive to a person who's never been involved with windsurfing or kiting. The equipment is simple. The amount of strength required is less, I believe, in my opinion, and the rewards come quick, and your learning or the progression is rapid. So that kind of fuels your need or your desire to participate and train and be on the water more and more. So it's just kind of all comes together. And I think that's what winging is. It's simpler to me, and it's fun. It's a different tool that you put in the toolbox, be it SUP or kiting or surfing, what have you. It's just another excuse or reason to get on the water. And so far I'm really enjoying it.
And Rob, how much, I know this is confidential information, but how much do you weigh?
I'm down to 224 now.
The reason I ask is I want to just let everybody know out there, what are some of the lightest winds you can ride in? Rob Douglas at 224.
So that's a good question.
Wingfoil.
So today I went down there early this morning, and it said 15 miles an hour, and that's about 13 knots, right? And I think I'm getting to my threshold. But having said that, I'm on a 6-meter wing, so I could add horsepower and probably drop that down to 11 knots. And I'm also on an 800 square meter foil. So if I wanted to bump that up to a 1300 with a 7-meter, I bet you 9 to 10 knots with some volume. I'm probably going back and forth.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to share that with people.
And now, like, do you split your time on the water between different sports, and what's the how much of the winging are you doing compared to other stuff?
Yeah, winging right now is that's where my focus is. I'm having a lot of fun there, and I'm figuring stuff out, and I'm learning. So I'm going through that learning curve, which I had said previously kind of drives the addiction and the interest for me. Figuring out stuff, applying harness lines, going to your first race, making those steps on a daily basis. I love that. So to answer the question, I think I've kited twice this year, and I'm probably at 45 to 50 sessions on the wing. So 50 to 1 right now. That's where I'm at. Again, we're going to the summertime. The wind's a little bit lighter. I'm sure that ratio will go back to kiting when our fall winds kick in a bit this fall. I have the stuff behind me. I've been working on bars, and I've been working on my kites to get ready and stuff. But right now, primarily winging holds my interest right now.
So the big question, it's the whole world wants to know, probably Kazagaris, some of these other speed guys, the trench. Are we going to the trench and break some world records on a wing? Is that what's going down? How's that trench going to work with foils?
Oh, yeah. It's that's another thing. I mean, I was thinking about that this morning. So, I think a typical average level kite surfer on a twin tip in flat water can do, 30 knots, I bet, is pretty achievable, probably 30, 35. On a wing right now, for me, I'm maxed out at like 30 to 32 knots. Being a heavier rider kind of doesn't allow me to get on those small kite foils to go much faster. But again, that's part of the what keeps it so attractive to me is you got to figure out your wing, you got to figure out your foil, you got to figure out your board, figure out the volume and the challenges associated with being a heavier rider. But it's doable. I'm losing a little bit of weight to try to be able to get on smaller gear, actually. So, and we'll see. But to me, 30 knots on a wing, man, you're going pretty darn good.
And what's your fastest VMAX ever on a kite? VMAX.
Fastest VMAX on a kite, I think, is 61.5 knots.
61 knots on a kite.
Yeah.
And then is that where you went into the cartwheel, or was that?
No. No. That was in a run. I didn't even crash on that run, believe it or not. That was in Alex's place over in Ponson. Yep, at his Salt and Speed event. That's where I saw my best Emax. Yeah.
61 knots across water, everybody. Yeah, that's and 30 knots on a wing foil right now. If you kind of run, it's just funny how you're like, wow, that's really fast on a wing, and then you've been double that.
What's funny is when I those Vmaxes of in the high 50s and stuff, when it comes together on the speedboard, it doesn't feel that. It feels fast, but it doesn't feel as fast as what I feel like above 30 on a kite foil. I mean, 27, 28 knots, 29 knots, it on a kite wing, or excuse me, on a kite foil. So it's just funny how that they feel so much differently. I know when I'm pushing 30 knots on a kite wing, and 50 knots on a kite after a lot of practice became, with the right conditions, the right wind, the right water, right angle, became relatively easy.
Wow.
So for the wing foiling like speed, what condition would be ideal to go the fastest
on the wing?
Yeah.
So for me right now, my smallest wing is a 600s, and that's where I'm seeing my best speeds, of course. I'm on a relatively long mast, and it's coming with not a super small wing either. It's coming with a 4 meter. It just feels like it's a little bit more stable for me. And surprisingly enough, I had not spent a lot of time on a foil, even with kiting, but flat water again plays a relatively large, it becomes the required element of going fast is getting good water quality. And it doesn't have to be as flat as it does on a kite to go fast, but the flatter, the better. And the angles become similar too. Although I think right now, fast for me on a wing is pretty square, meaning it's not downwind, it's not upwind, it's just beam reach.
And I'm guessing fuselages might be getting a little bit longer for a little bit of stability. Or you're not there yet? Is that too much confidence? Did I go too far?
I think that's a good question for the kite foil guys. I think on their speed stuff, they tried to go a little bit longer to take a little bit of that reactiveness out of it. But I hadn't even come to play with fuselage length yet.
He's staying confidential, everybody.
Nah, that's the truth. The thing about riding Mike Zychek stuff is he does so much testing and development out there with his guys out there and he's never put me in the wrong direction. I just say, hey, this is what I'm looking at. These are my conditions. What do you think? This is my weight. This is my level of riding. And he plugs it in and he builds you stuff and you ride it and you just become super excited and happy about the results from the gear. So
in terms of like max speed, do you think you would like no we are not talking about distance, do you think you would get your max speed using a harness or no harness?
Right now it is a good question. And right now, because when you're in a harness, it's a little bit more of a commitment, right? So once you start getting faster and faster and things start to not get uncomfortable, but you're pushing the limits a little bit, I'm out of the harness, because if things go wrong and I'm still learning every day, you have more options to kind of get away from your stuff if you have to crash. When you're hooked in, it's more of a commitment. I think you do in theory go faster top speed with a harness, but I'm just not there yet. And I think you spend more time, get more comfortable, and ultimately it'll be faster with a harness. Right now, today as we speak, I'm more comfortable top end, just using the body and dropping the harness line.
In windsurfing world records, we'll call it. Is it in Lüderitz? Is that where they hold the record still?
They still have an event there, and they still have produced the fastest. Yeah.
And those guys going down the channel, is that Antoine, or who has the record? Antoine.
Yeah, Antoine's at 53 knots and he's
change.
In
a windsurfer fully locked in for sure down that channel, right?
Oh yeah, full on. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you're full unhooked with the wing.
Yep.
Unhooked. You hear that? That's like throwing it
Unhooked.
back in the day when
Wow,
you used to yell at me
yeah.
like, "Hey, let's do handle passes unhooked."
Yep. Yep.
I love it. I love it. Where do you see the future going? I mean, do you see just way more people getting into winging right now, like just for free riding, and opens the door to so many more locations? I mean, obviously we're talking about the high end here with speed and racing and so on, and that's got a whole nother game to go to, but it's just so user friendly to people, huh?
Yeah, I believe it's user friendly. It's new, so it's exciting that way. It's developing, so it's fun to kind of be in the developmental stages of an up and coming sport. But to me, it's not either one or the other. To me, like I've said before, it's like having a pair of pliers in the toolbox, a hammer, a screwdriver, a socket wrench, and the more tools you have, the more things you can work on and have fun. And to me, it's another tool in the chest of toys to play with and learn from and apply to all the other wind sports. So windsurfing, kiting, or winging, the more the merrier, and it's just more fun, more time on the water.
How and this is, I windsurfed like 4 times in my life or something, probably each time at a Cabrini dealer meeting. But long story short, to rig a full setup, what was the fastest you could rig a setup? And then what's it, obviously it takes like 3 minutes to pump up a wing and go on the water. I mean, did it take a little bit longer to rig windsurfing gear?
It depends what you're rigging. If you're just on your bump and jump gear, that can go pretty quick. Race gear, it's just like with racing kites or even racing wings, is probably a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But it was a longer process versus kiting, and much longer for winging. So winging the setup time is attractive, and it's easy, and it's simple, and the space required to get going is off your boat, off your dock, off a crowded beach with 1,000 people on it. And that's another positive thing that winging has going for itself.
In terms of like gear, do you believe in more high aspect foils, lower aspect foils?
That's a good question. So I just got the two, I would consider them high aspect, 10-to-1, 9-to-1 aspect ratios during the last month or 5 weeks, something like that. Before that, I think I'm guessing a little bit. It was like 7.5 aspect ratios. If you want to go fast and you want to get the speeds up there, higher aspect is working for me. They're smaller. That helps tremendously. But
so
it depends what you want to do. If you want to go
smaller with more lift for the size, is that what you mean?
Yeah, and but again, if I go into the surf with the SUP on the foil, my wing goes, to 1,400 is the smallest I'll go, because I want to be able to get going. And again, that's probably waist to chest. But on the wing, I'm having a lot more fun at higher speeds. The transitions will get more fun. You start to open up new doors. So that to me is tending towards a more of a high aspect foil. But so in the surf, I think that comes down. It does for me. Bigger, a little slower, more stable, a little more predictable. That's what I want to be in the surf versus, flat water on the wing.
And as you talk about surf, I always like to do this because Rob is definitely one of the most talented humans I've ever met in my entire life, and soon to be a professional paraglider too, by the way, everybody. But I wanted to go into when you first started winging, or kind of when you were starting, your 200 plus pounds, for those people listening in. What's the volume in your board that you'd kind of recommend to just make your life easy? Because I think, to me, that's a super important point that, look, we talk about it a lot, but I just think it's one of those things. I mean, I literally got 2 calls yesterday. Somebody like, hey, actually, you probably even know him, but Bucky Ashcraft. And he's like, hey man, can I really get away with my sinker and this and that? I'm like, man, don't even go there, dude. Don't do the sinker. Just trust me, go bigger, make your life easier in the beginning. So I'm just kind of curious, what was your volume?
Well, that's funny because I've probably, if we look back over our text history, I probably have, or phone call, I've probably talked to you or asked that question to you. What do you think? 20 times in the last 3 months or something like that?
For sure. Yeah.
Because that's an interesting part of the learning process. So I started with my SUP foil board, which is 130 liters. And that got me, with a 7 meter cross wing. And I learned, and I think it got me for the first, maybe let's call it the first month. So 130 liters went down to about 100. I'm trying to recall, about 107, down to right now I'm at about 90, with probably an 80 liter board being built. And I really think that that recommendation of your body weight in kilos ratio to volume really works. It worked for me, and I use that as a guide. And I'm interested to see how small I can get. I don't want to get too small because I think you lose some options. But it'd be fun to get down to 65 liters for 225-pound rider if you have a good, nice, constant wind. I sail in a kind of an offshore, gustier place, so a little bit of volume gives me some more options to do some things. So. But that's a great question. I can't wait to try a small board someday and see the benefits from it.
I think Gwen can chime in on this, but he literally, Gwen was always pushing to go smaller, and now he's actually almost going not bigger, but he's kind of stuck on a little bit higher volume because
I just found
more.
I started learn on a bigger board, which is perfect, definitely recommended, and then from hanging out with Damien and John, always riding sinker board, I got into that. And I remember the first time I went on a sinker board, I think I tried the sinker board and I didn't touch it for 2 months or something, because I was like, this is stupid, I can't go. And I would have so much more fun on the bigger board. But I went back to it, and with the right technique, you can get going on a sinker board. But then I got to try a 58 liter board, which is right in between. For me, if I have zero wind and I'm not moving, I pretty much can kind of sink it. But as soon as I have a tiny bit of pressure in my wing, boom, I'm up, I'm on top of the water. And then a gust, and I can pump
and how much you weigh, Gwen, just so everybody knows?
Maybe in kilos, maybe 70 kilos, and in pounds, I don't know, 65 pounds, something like that.
Yeah. So if you're at 70 kilos, and that sinker board is what, about 40 liters or smaller?
The sinker board I was riding was 40 liters. Yeah. And now I went back to 58, and I feel like 58 is so ideal because I can ride it in any condition. I can do I don't do much speed and racing, but for me, I do a lot of tricks and jumping. And that's why I love it, because when you do tricks, you land maybe pretty hard with no speed. If you have a sinker board, maybe you just sink and wait for the next gust. Where on this one, you kind of stay on top of the water and can get going. And that size is still small enough that it really feels like almost
reactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was something I learned too when I was down in Aruba. So I think it was the second start, and I took the 600 wing on the foil on the first start with a 4 meter, and it's a long race, and it's probably 15 to 20 at the start with lots of gusts, and then they have one big jibe mark on the outside, and that was in 10 knots, and then there was a section right at the last finish, which was maybe a mile or so of really fluky wind behind the hotels, and I almost got caught. So I went to a bigger foil to kind of take that out of play, just like playing golf. You want to stay out of the hazards. And long story short, I came off the foil in sequence, maybe like a minute and a half to the start, and I couldn't get back on the foil. And if I had been on a smaller board, what saved me was 90 liters. If I had been, on a smaller sinker board, I would have probably not done. I would have really suffered in that race. Again, volume to me gives you options, and you got to find that balance between really reactive and fun and jumping. And again, I don't do a lot of jumping, so that probably changes the equation a bit. but you find that balance between too small, too big, kind of go in the middle and have the best of both worlds. And for me, I think that's like, 80 to 90 liters.
And again, Rob's turning 51 tomorrow, so everybody happy birthday to Rob. But you see those arms right there? That's what happens when you wing foil a lot, everybody. So if you don't think it's a good workout, it's a great workout. It's a mental workout. It's physically fun. And if you really want to get jacked, all you got to do is rig a sinker when it's light, and you'll be bumping around doing nothing. And you will be very, very fit.
I love that aspect about winging. You're really taking care of both things on the water at the same time. You're having fun, you're getting your exercise, you don't have to go to the gym. And again, having kids and schedules, if you can get it all done, in an hour and a half on the water, that's just another great benefit.
I agree.
A common question that comes pretty often from beginners to more advanced is foot straps. What is your philosophy on foot straps? What is your setup? Do you use 2, 1, 3, 0? What?
I have always been comfortable with foot straps.
How many foot straps do you have in your bin in your house right now? There's probably
you want to go over there and check it out?
400.
Let's see if we can go check it out for a second. Hold on a second. Here's the foot strap. Here's the deck pad, and here's the foot straps, and here's the traction.
Everything is so neatly organized. I love it.
I had to throw that out.
I think it's so important.
Foot straps. It's a beautiful thing. You've never seen anything like it. He cuts all the shims perfectly. And this is why Rob is, always pushes the limit in water sports, because he's, he thinks about things, he tries things, he tests things, he learns things. And to me, that's just a beautiful thing to get good at something. So.
Yeah, and foot straps have always been an interest of mine, and I think it's the direct connection to the board. In windsurfing, they are important. In kiting, they became important. In speed, they were super important. I mean, I went through so many different foot strap testing and heel straps and bindings and all kinds of stuff to find what I'm comfortable in and what worked best for me. But so on the wing, I started right away with straps. Largely because it told me where I needed to be on the board. I didn't have to look down or kind of guess and figure that out. I knew based on SUP foil, if my feet were in the straps, I'm good, I'm balanced, I'm ready to take off. So all I had to do was concentrate on the wing. And I was comfortable coming from that. So that's how I started. And I just, in the last month or two, took the back strap off and just have the two up front. And that allows you to kind of play with your back foot. It takes jumping out. But again, if you kind of want to, run around and see how fast you can go, and going back and forth and racing or going upwind, it allows you to move that back foot around. And it's funny because when I look down at the deck, my toes are on the toe side rail. I'm not in the center. And again, that's kind of balancing your front foot that's to the heel side center, and your back foot's going to be compensating and balancing
kind of
off that.
Offset, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot more than I thought it would be. And it's a lot more than SUP foil. But so I'm running 2 straps up front, and it's working great. And
you got any tips for somebody? This is always a big question out there, and everybody struggles with it. Switching feet. So when you switch feet from, say, you're going to heel side to toe side, or just switching your feet, what's your biggest tip or most basic tip you could give somebody? It's a question that came up, and it's a really good question because, it is hard to switch your feet. So as a bigger guy, what's your best recommendation for somebody switching their feet?
It's funny you asked that, because I was thinking about the other day when I was sailing, and people would say it to me, and I kind of would see it when I was watching film or videos, but it didn't make sense until I started doing it myself. But to switch my feet, I'll kind of push down on the foil, down the board, have it go down. And as soon as that board starts to come back up, that's when I switch my feet. And so then as you switch your feet and then press back onto it, you're putting the foil, the board back down. And I think that's something interesting into play. Of course, a bigger foil, more stable, helps to learn that. So I started winging on I think almost 1,600 square centimeter foil. That really helped. And then I worked my way down. I went to a 1,300. I spent last summer on a 1,300, and then all winter I spent an 1,100. And this spring, when I started to say, let's get interested in a race and let's get interested in seeing what 30 knots is like. I got the smaller foils, and I was surprised not only that I could use those foils in lighter winds than I thought, but I was surprised at the stability they provided because I learned on big stable foils. And that's where you work on your footwork, right? So then when you plug the small foil in, it's a little bit more sensitive, but if you spend enough time on a bigger foil getting it down, your footwork down, then it really come almost a seamless transition to the smaller, faster foils. But again, you guys, you know what I'm talking about? You press down on that foil, you pump it down as it comes back up, boom. Then you put your feet, you switch, then you do your transition.
For that, split second where you kind of like go like weightless, because it's kind of like a small jump, except that your foil doesn't come out of the water.
Exactly.
It's kind of like that principle. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that's a good hit.
Do you move your back foot, like before to like maybe get it ready, get it closer?
Yeah, I probably cheat a little bit with the back foot forward, but not a lot. Again, being a heavier rider, I don't think I have the ability to kind of move around on the board a lot because, if you put 200 pounds forward of the foil versus 150, the foil is going to react. So usually my feet are where they are. I may cheat my back heel a little bit forward, and then I just switch from where I am. But again, straps my straps are 7.5 inches wide. That's probably pretty wide based on what I've measured in production boards. It's a bigger target to throw your foot into versus 6.5 inches, which I think is pretty standard. And when I go 7.5 inches, I can shim the foot straps narrower with, washers that I make, or I can keep it wide open so that when I was working on my footwork, and again, up being in the Northeast, a lot of the times we have 3 mil booties on, maybe 6 mil booties on. That requires more space in the strap, and having a wide strap. So when you do your footwork or you do switch your stance, you're not trying to tuck it into a nice tight strap. I liked a little bit more ability to kind of, not only when you're riding to move your foot around based on the speed you're going. If you want to kind of cheat forward in the strap, you can, but you don't have to be out of the strap to do it. And then when you do your transitions, a bigger, wider strap allows you to, without looking, or with less difficulty, be right in the strap. To me, the strap, if I'm in the strap, I know things are going to be good.
Yeah.
If I start getting out of the strap, then it gets
I love it.
vague
I think
and uncomfortable.
You nailed that, Robin. I would say, the question's still kind of going on the foot straps. I say with foot straps, it's all the same thing. But, as Rob was saying, I would say for cheating with foot straps, his back foot may maneuver, and technically now he's taken his back foot strap off. And even with the back foot strap, if you had 2 in the front, 2 foot straps in the front, 1 in the back, there's no reason why you can't just pull your back foot out, put it in the center of the board. And then same thing, the board goes down, goes up. And when you go for that transition, you just jam it into the foot strap. And then your other foot goes instantly to that level spot, kind of center of the board to make that move. Then you can slide it back into the foot strap. And a lot of people think you step your foot like steps. Don't be afraid to just shimmy toe, heel, because it'll be less movements than just full weight shift, because then it'll change the angle of the board. So don't be afraid to play with just riding along. Everybody out there, you can go out there and just shimmy toe, heel. And it's an easy way to kind of like baby your way to learn the movements of the board, and then you'll get more efficient. But truthfully, I would say those transitions just take repetition. I think a lot of it just go over it and over it and over it, and then you get really efficient at it.
And I know guys who never touch foot straps, and they don't ever want to use foot straps. And if that's what's working, that all the power to you. To me, again, it was just it told me where I had to be immediately, and I knew if I was in the straps, I was good.
You
and
just like straps.
I don't think I've ever said without them.
You just like you have a lot of them in your place there. So.
And it helps you pump too. A bigger guy, if you want to pull up on that nose of that board and you're in the strap, you're in there, and it helps you, dominate the board a bit. And
do you think it helps you in light winds to get going?
For sure. Oh, big time for me. Yeah, I struggle in the light winds, and to have that. Again, I know where I have to be on the board, number 1. Number 2, it allows me to pull up on my front foot or be more aggressive with my front foot because I know it's not going anywhere.
Love it. Yeah. Great info.
Is there a situation where you would not recommend for like somebody that you would not recommend foot straps?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good idea. Again, I didn't do it, but having done it enough that if you were to learn, again, it's like being in the harness versus not being in the harness. It's another level of commitment to the board. So if things do go, you're crashing a lot when you're learning, it's harder to separate your stuff from the equipment. So it's probably a good idea that if you're really learning on a board that's big enough that you don't need them, if you're familiar with where you have to be in relation to the foil, it's probably a good idea to start without, just for the first few days, figure out what's going on, get your crashing, dealt with so that you can push the foil away if you need to. And then,
How come
progress.
How come when I was in the vineyard and you were training me on a wing foil and you put me in bindings and locked me in, what was that all about?
That was tactics, buddy.
Just kidding.
Well, an alternative would be the hook for beginners, which is, just like a half strap. So then you kind of get the benefit of the strap. You put your foot there, you know exactly where it goes. But then if you crash, your foot comes out very easily. It won't get stuck in it. So you kind of like get the best of both worlds for beginners. You are not totally locked in, but you know exactly where your foot goes. So that's an option.
Yep, exactly.
It's funny, as Rob goes through this stuff. I mean, obviously my brain starts ticking. I'm sure just like his is already, and he probably already has like 5 boards in the works coming. But I already see for racing, I see like the rails, the nice little heel side rails where you can put your foot against it and have a little more leverage without, because obviously a lot of people you see in racing are just running the 2 front foot straps and then they kind of leverage against the back. But I could see the back of the board being built for more leverage, but a little free to move your foot around, because in puffs and changing and adjusting your back foot, it's pretty interesting to see where this is going to go. But it's awesome. Rob, you are just a book of knowledge. Your value to water sports and to humanity and to what you do, and to show what, you put everything into it. And I've always admired that. I've always, you won't stop asking the questions. And I think that's the most beautiful thing is like, anybody out there that struggles with, should I ask? Is that a stupid question? Is that a dumb question? Is it whatever? And I can literally just say to everybody out there, look, if you don't ask, you never know. So like, if you see somebody in the beach and you want to ask them something, because you just don't know. There's no bad questions out there. It's learning. Life is learning, and that's how you learn stuff. And the more you ask, the more you do your research, the better you're going to be at something. And I think Rob's that absolutely perfect example of that.
I think that's exactly right. Ask the questions. And for me, the second part of that is when I'm in a race environment, whether it be the kite or the wing, you're forced not to just comfortably sail back and forth like I do all the time. I'm in my spot. I'm going fast. This is beautiful. I'm ready. That's it. And then you put yourself in a race environment, having to sail between point A and point B. You can't tack on the header, or, you have to go through it. You can't always be in the windy spot on the course or in your home spot. When you have to sail between point A and point B, and you got other racers with you, you really learn your equipment quickly. Whether how big you can ride the wing, or how big or small you can go in the foil, how much volume you need. And that's really what I got out of this. My first wing foil race was you're forced to sail the course on a certain amount of time with competitors around you, and you learn your gear. And you apply those lessons, you get better and you get faster, and your equipment, starts to all come together as an overall package. And then the fun level follows that right behind it. And that, to me, was a big benefit of why I wanted to do my first race, just to have fun, and only to learn my gear and to apply that and get better and better and better.
Okay, so we've obviously blew through the time again. We got to jump into our patron group, because they're just incredibly supportive. And everybody out there, look, we love you guys. We hope you're having a great Wednesday. The legend himself, Rob Douglas, here sharing his information. But Rob, if you were to leave on this note and message somebody and let them know, life lesson, what would it be right now? What would you give somebody? What would be a message you want to share with everybody to just say in our time, our world right now?
It's funny how things happen in life. It's really, it's timing, and a lot of it is circumstance, and a lot of it is luck. I had kids at a late stage in my life. I was 46, I think. I was trying to have kids with my wife when I was in the late 30s. It didn't happen, but it eventually happened. And I think being a dad and being, into water sports where you can't schedule it is a great thing. And, having kids later in life to me was, it happened by chance, but it ended up being the best thing for me eventually. And just by chance. And I'm super happy to be a dad for the first time, but now 3 kids, and kind of leaving the career I had with Cabrina and competition, but now winging allows me to go during lunch breaks, and the kids are in daycare, and I'll be able to have the best of both worlds. So having kids late in life for me was a benefit, and it's working out great. So that's my 2 things there.
So we'll just say Father's Day coming up. Happy Father's Day to all those dads out there. Truly, you're a light to your little nugget, girl, boy, whatever it is. And I'm a new father too, and I would say I agree with Rob. There's no wrong time to do it. It's one of the most beautiful things you can do. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I'm sure Rob will say the same thing. With twins like that, you can get really fit, like Rob said, because you're picking them up all the time. But we just want to say all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. Rob,
awesome.
You're just such a book of knowledge, and it's really cool to just see your passion and to see where this is going to go. And I'll just go out on a limb and say that all you wing foilers out there, get ready. There's going to be some records has. There's going to be some races won. And this 51-year-old tomorrow will be in that podium around there. So get ready.
Hey, I love talking to you guys anytime. It's always a pleasure. Sharing knowledge, sharing the tips, sharing the lessons, and look forward to talking to you guys again.
I love
Thanks
it.
a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And for all those listening, we love you guys. We're grateful. Look, go out, ask the questions, do what you want to do, enjoy and learn in life. It's one of the most beautiful things you can do. On that note, we're going to jump over into the patron show. Gwen, you got anything to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, it just made me think of that video that everybody loved. That was like, it's never too late. And it was like a message that, Harry shared, but it's just like, it's
Never
kind of
too
the
late.
same message. It's never too late. So if there is something you want to do, don't let anything stop you. Go after it and have fun along the way. That's what you are doing, Rob. And that's super inspiring. So
yeah, thanks guys.
And if anybody gets negative, just DM Rob. He's really good at, sharing that positivity and inspiration. Now, he's one of the most incredible humans on the planet. So make sure to reach out to him. And if you see him on the water, don't be intimidated. He's a big dude, but he's like a big teddy bear.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
All right, everybody. Have a beautiful day.
all right, see you guys.
See you guys.
Thanks so much, Rob.